So welcome everybody to all viewers of this talk on lessons learned and way forward for the multi-actor partnership on climate and disaster risk finance and insurance. I'm Magdalena Mirwald from the Munich Climate Insurance Initiative, and we're very happy to host this virtual event in our booth at the UNDRR Global Platform in Indonesia. So finance for disaster risk reduction is one of the 6 topics of the global platform. And if we look at where this is actually realized, it is in the multi-layered approach of climate and disaster risk finance and insurance, which is short CDRFI. And then in the policy fora for exchange and coordination on this topic, mainly the Insure Resilience Global Partnership, which is short IGP. And how do this project, the multi-actor partnership, fit in all of this? So CDRFI is often understood as a technical or a technocratic process, but actually it's a society-wide process to change from a reactive to a proactive risk management approach. And to achieve this, all actors and all parts of society need to be involved, but unfortunately, not all stakeholders involved in CDRFI have realized this yet. So this is why our MAP project brings together different stakeholders across civil society, government, the private sector, and academia to jointly discuss and work on CDRFI. The project is funded by the German Ministry for Development and Economic Cooperation, and it acts in a consortium of 11 civil society organizations and is active in 6 national and 1 regional MAP, and it is also working on a global policy level. So on the national and regional level, the goal is to capacitate our local civil society to understand technical terms and processes in order to create a more equal playing field, to enable them to engage in ground truthing of CDRFI concepts, and to ultimately influence implementation of CDRFI products to better serve vulnerable populations. And internationally, there was and there still is an ongoing need to create a policy space for contribution of civil society organizations. We need to get them heard and we need to get them taken seriously. And this is crucial because they are the closest link to vulnerable local populations and they have important insights from their local groundwork. And for this, we encourage active participation of our partners in international processes, for example, this Insure Resilience Global Partnership and also the UNFCCC. And then for my organization, the Munich Climate Insurance Initiative, short MCII, our role in the consortium is to provide technical advisory on disaster risk finance design and also on this international policy-making processes. And our aim is to support and learn from our local MAPS partners. So in short, we are like the CDRFI think tank and we act as a bridge builder between different communities. But now this was enough introductory talk from my side, and I'm happy to introduce some of our fellow MAPS partners, and let's hear why they have joined the project.
Hi, I'm Kairos. Cruz. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, or ICSC. ICSC is the lead implementer of the MAP project here in the Philippines. We joined MAP almost 2 years ago with so much excitement because we believe that it is an opportune moment to pivot towards one of the most crucial component of our climate finance ecosystem, which is climate and disaster risk finance and insurance. For us, the MAP is a one-stop shop of opportunities to collaborate with a wide network of implementers, think tanks, civil society, and development partners.
Hello, everyone. I am Fincha Chirenia. I am the Capacity Building Officer of the MAP Insure Resilience Project. I work for SAF-FGKM, a Malagasy national NGO and CSO, active since 1974. Our organization joined the MAP alongside the CARE Madagascar with the objective of contributing to Madagascar resilience to climate risk and disaster.
Hello everyone, I'm Vositha Wijenayake. I work as the Executive Director of SLYCAN Trust. We are a civil society non-profit think tank based in Sri Lanka, and we work as a national partner in the MAPS initiative that we are speaking of today.
I am very proud of the fact that we were able to lay the foundation of a sustainable map in the Philippines. One of our legislative champions filed a House resolution in the Philippine Congress that calls for the establishment of MAP institutionally. Our biggest learning is that we have so much untapped and underutilized interest. We are hoping that we will be able to harness those interests and turn them into action.
So far, we have succeeded in bringing together at the same table the main actors and stakeholders around CDRFI in Madagascar. As the subject is fairly new in our country, the process was laborious, but the exchanges were rich and led to a partnership and collaboration between the government, the private sector, CSOs, and academia. The project activities has also contributed to feeding and improving the actions around CDRFI in Madagascar, especially the capacity building sessions and awareness raising that have become opportunities and spaces for local actors to present their actions and approaches. Thus, they have contributed to the improvement of the pilots and the scaling up of projects on CDRFI in Madagascar. In other words, we can say that the project linked the initiatives and actors around CDRFI in our country.
If I may talk about the successes of SLYCAN Trust and the work that we've been doing as part of the multi-actor partnership program linked to climate and disaster risk transfer, I think first I would like to think of working with vulnerable communities and being able to document the climate and disaster risks that they're facing, as well as understanding what kind of setups are available for communities to access relief in a situation of how climate and disaster risks are faced. So we worked on crop insurance, existing crop insurance in Sri Lanka, and how effective it is. And I feel the success is that we were able to work with over 500 farmers, households, and understand what their present situation is and make a connection to the local level as well as national and international level policy interventions that could happen. And as part of these activities, we were able to bring together multiple actors at local, national, and international level. Especially if I speak on the local level, we were able to bring the government officers, interlink with the national processes that we've been working with and the private sector that's part of these discussions and identifying opportunities to scale up resilience of the vulnerable community, especially in the food systems sector, as well as climate resilience that could be built through livelihoods. I think that's one of the successes. And the second would be how we managed to bring in a component of entrepreneurship through a program called Ethical X, which connects with the general overview of risk management and resilience building. So it wasn't necessarily a part of the original project itself, but also building on initiatives that's been there and are practiced as part of the work of SLYCAN Trust. So that kind of brought a bigger audience or a broader scope of partners for the process of multiple actors to be involved in climate and disaster risk transfer, as well as risk management and risk reduction, identifying governance systems that would be facilitating inclusive and participatory processes that would build resilience, climate, and disaster risk. So I would think those as the main ones, and as well as gender responsive actions and innovative solutions that were generated through MAP's actions that we've been working on.
So in the last 2 years, we have actually managed to create an international policy space for civil society in the field of CDRFI. And some of our partners are now involved in the governance of the so-called high-level consultative group, HLCG, of the Inter-Resilience Global Partnership. And some topics connected to CDRFI are prominently covered by our CSO partners, for example, gender. And on a national level, some countries have already officially declared their maps, which is a major milestone.
Well, I think you might have heard this 100 times already, if not 1,000. COVID restrictions constrained the project's implementation on many levels. My organization has to make a conscious decision to change our approach. We tapped our academic institution partners, namely Benguet State University, Visayas State University, and Xavier University, to help us establish our map work in the major island groups in the Philippines. Things slowed down, but I think we did well given the circumstances.
For Madagascar, one of the main challenges has been to engage the public sector and the government, as this will be the basis for the institutional anchoring of the national map. The constant changes and instability of institutional leaders threaten the representativeness and involvement of public actors in the partnership. The CDRFA baseline study shows a low level of risk and insurance culture for Madagascar. This slows down the discussion and promotion of CDRFA due to the skepticism not only from beneficiaries, but also from national and local actors. The capacity building sessions and the organization of exchanges and dialogues helps a lot in this aspect, providing better understanding and different perspectives to the stakeholders. Lack of financial resources to enable the private sector to fully participate in CDRFA initiatives was also one of the main challenges of the project.
Yeah, so challenges that we faced, it focuses on country context plus in general, working with multiple actors. One would be the fact during COVID, accessing communities and different areas that we've been working at subnational level, that became an issue, and also the planning process. We would have a certain time frame, but then in implementation, this wouldn't necessarily go the same way due to the fact that there were complete lockdowns in the country, and then engaging communities was a bit difficult. So that was more of a logistical functionality issue. In the sense of how multiple actors engage, I believe having a look at formal engagement in the same way of different actors, stakeholders working, was something that we found a bit of a challenge, because when we talk about maps, then we think everyone can be on the same level of engagement in the assumption of an ideal situation of a map. But different actors would have their priorities or regulations, especially due to the fact that we do work with government actors as well. So engagement of a formal documentation process as a proof of engagement, that was a bit challenging in the sense of some not being able to sign in on an MOU or an agreement which is official and carrying legal implications. So I'm not saying that there needs to be something like this, but the assumption is that, okay, there would be a formal engagement and a sign-off, but getting this from different actors could be a bit complicated than others. So one thing we've figured out is that everyone could engage at their level with a baseline or a minimum of engagement or the consent to be part of maps, and then working around it. So that's something we've worked around and found out how each and everyone could be engaged based on their nature of engagement. Other than that, yeah, the time commitment, because this is an additional action for many who are part of MAPS, and this specifically this project, while there can be a connection on a thematic level, the activity would not necessarily be the same for different actors because it's not part of their main, not necessarily mandate, but the main activities that they would be doing as part of the annual programs. So finding the time at the same level for engagement and also having the same person engage on a regular basis, that would not necessarily be as easy as we would envisage at the start of a program or a project. So that's one. Yeah, so I think those are the key challenges that we face, the logistics, as well as getting commitment, and also having a process that everyone can agree to in engaging with maps.
So for MCII, COVID-19 presented us with major problems. In those remote areas which have no or little internet connection, it was a bit difficult to reach our partners. And for our partners, it was even more difficult to reach the vulnerable populations. And then for those with internet connection, we all started to suffer from a kind of Zoom fatigue. So this had some impacts on our capacity building efforts. And another challenge in general is to secure long-term engagement of our partners, because funding is limited and it's always only secured for short project periods, but the processes are permanent, they take a long time, and this increases the risk of our civil society partners to drop out somewhere midway.
We plan to scale up and replicate. Scale up our research work to contribute more in the global efforts to gathering evidences on climate and disaster risk finance, and in telling the local stories of vulnerability and how people are coping to the fast-changing climate. We also plan to scale up the work that we're doing with our local academic partners and other MAP stakeholders, and hopefully move into implementation and actual project design later on. Lastly, we plan to replicate our work to other countries, especially in the region. We believe that our shared vulnerabilities with our neighboring countries will increase our chances of coming up with real actionable solutions.
One of the main goals for Madagascar is to expand the map in our country so that it can reach more local actors through the country, thus promoting CDRFI at the local level and at the same time maintaining the dynamism among the MAP members. Another one is to support the scaling up of CDRFI initiatives by integrating the results of the studies conducted during phase 1 and the lessons learned from the pilot initiatives with a focus on gender and proper approaches. And one of our goals is also to contribute to the preparation of national frameworks on CDRFI in Madagascar, like policy and strategy. Thank you.
For second phase, for SLYCAN Trust, I think there are certain similarities between phase 1 and phase 2. So one would be scaling up by learning from the experiences of phase 1. This would be the food systems related climate and disaster risk management, especially on the risk transfer component, looking at policy and implementation integration, building on evidence, because we focus on research and knowledge management as a key priority aspect of the activities that we are doing and will be doing in phase 2 as well. So integrating the learnings from phase 1 to phase 2, identifying entry points to build on these relationships, scaling up the engagement, engaging more actors at local, national, as well as international level. We would have some regional component where we would contribute to building some evidence and knowledge at regional level as well for MAP's experiences in the Asian region. That's some of it. And also expanding sectors. So primarily in the first phase, what we had was focused on crop insurance, while we were looking at different sectors that would connect with food systems, as well as we go along, kind of policy of identifying entry points and building on those. So based on our experience for the second phase, we would be looking at sectors like fashion, public-private partnerships, how this could be a key component in the work that we do, as well as building on food systems, obviously, fisheries, and identifying opportunities also to link with tourism sector, because that's something important in Sri Lanka, and how that could connect to enhancing livelihoods and financial resilience if people were to face, or entities were to face, climate and disaster risk. So that's something we're looking at. And also enhancing different verticals, and looking how we could build on the case studies that we've been working on at subnational level. So for Sri Lanka, we are working in multiple divisions, and we are also developing plans and case studies on how risk integration could happen at local level planning processes. And SLYCAN Trust is working with local actors, government officers, communities on how this could happen through risk assessing and integrating to planning processes through livelihoods, as well as other initiatives that could connect with policy interventions, and also indicators and evidence-based mapping of impacts. So we are looking at how this could scale up, how this could maybe be a good example to be replicated. We are expanding the number of sub-national level focuses and the divisions that we'll be working on, and also applying this with a key focus on the sectors that I just mentioned. As the last point, I would say building on evidence, impacts, and feeding what we have to local, national, and international processes, especially the Inter-Students Global Partnership and the work of the Impacts Working Group, how evidence that's assessing impacts of the actions that we are conducting, the knowledge products. We're working on some modules that would connect with the work of the Inter-Students Global Partnership, where multiple actors could benefit, as well as the partners in the project, and those are in the maps that we're developing. So looking at how modules, capacity building actions, as well as impact assessments could be a knowledge base to be replicated on maps, and how SLYCAN Trust could contribute through the evidence base to different levels of actions on maps. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
So for us, capacity building is not a quick fix. Capacity building is a long-term process, and therefore we want to deepen our engagement in the second phase to really create long-term and sustainable results. So thank you for my dear partners for sharing your insights, and also to the audience for your attention. The global platform is a great space for civil society organizations and projects like our multi-actor partnership, since they get plenty of recognition on this platform. So thank you very much for UNDRR to organizing this. And I wish all of you a good rest of your day, and hope to see you again soon, somewhere, somehow. Take care.